Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we're going to make custom periodic table element coasters. You might not be aware, but when I went to university, I actually specialized in biogeography, and quite surprisingly, there's a lot of chemistry involved with sort of both of those fields that I combined into one. Now, when it comes to making custom periodic table elements, coasters like this here, you got to realize that there's a lot of different elements. So the first thing is you have to pick which ones you want. So if you go on CNCKing.com, I have all of them. And I don't know why, but about over 20 years ago, there weren't as many elements as there are today. There's a ton of them now. It's crazy. Anyways, I want to show you the two examples here. So this one here is with a layer of tung oil, and this one here is without. So this gives you an idea as what the tung oil option on the website actually offers you. You don't really have to have it. It is plywood, so it is relatively durable. What the tung oil does, it gives it an extra layer of protection, and I do the front and the back and everything as well. It gives the extra layer of protection from the environment. So let's say you have something wet, which probably you will have when you use the coasters. It's just a barrier to prevent any mold or any of that kind of stuff building up on it. Now you might be wondering, out of all the materials I can make these custom coasters out of, why do I start off with 1/4" plywood? The first obvious answer is budget. In this case here, I just finished up a job for my main company, CNCKing.com, doing something on the CNC router, and I had a whole bunch of 1/4" plywood, as you can see, left over. I was wondering, what can I do with this? I don't want to throw it out because it's good material. It's perfectly fine after all the parts are cut. And so what I decided is started to revise an idea I had about 5-6 years ago to make custom coasters like this. Luckily for me, I already had the design file made a couple of years ago that I made for this exact purpose, but I just never got around to it. So in this case here, what I'm doing is using the laser, cut all the coasters out of some scrap plywood that I had from a job that I finished like about a week before this video was produced. Now, as you'll see, I'm doing them essentially one at a time, although you could sort of see batches of it. And the nice thing about that is that I could customize them however you want whenever I do the production. So let's say you wanted your own custom coaster with your own information on there. I could do that just as easily as a whole bunch of these coasters. Now, when it comes to the engraving pattern, what is done on it, that's pretty much what laser, what you see is what happens. There's no paint or dyes applied, just the laser engraving produces the contrast and cuts them out in one process. Now, as with everything else on CNCKing.com, we customize these however you want in any volume that you want as well. So right now I just have the plywood with tung oil, without tung oil. But if you wanted these, let's say in acrylic, you wanted these in 1-inch thick black walnut, we could do that just as easily. It would definitely cost more than what's on the website, but it just gives you an option as to what is possible. We can do them out of glass as well. So there's no real limit to what we can make these coasters out of. Generally, the only limitation we have is with our customers, more specifically what kind of budget they have to go ahead and do the project. So the nice thing about plywood is that it's very easy to source. Pretty much every lumber store has plywood, 1/4", 1/8", and so forth. When it comes to plywood for this application here, I could have gone with 1/8", but it's a little bit too thin. It's not the most durable thing, and I want something a little bit stronger. It would be more cost effective, of course, because it could laser cut it faster, and the material itself is cheaper. But for durability wise, I think 1/4" is a good start for these custom coasters. Now, when I mentioned earlier I could do these out of glass and other material, any of those materials will cost more than what we have on the website for the plywood. So consider the plywood to be a baseline to start off from. If you wanted these cut out of glass, I would probably use the water jet to cut them out, and then I use the laser engraver to engrave them as you see here. Something to keep in mind with glass is that when you laser engrave it, you're creating like a frosty look on it. So you're not creating like a black or a dark brown or anything like that. It's just a frosty sort of sandblast look. We also have a sandblast in the shop too. So, if you really wanted something really unique, I could do it with that just as easily as the lasers that I have here in the shop. Now, when it comes to other materials, for instance, you want these out of hardwood or softwood, let's say pine, or you want them hardwood like maple or black walnut or whatever, we can do that just as easily for you. And as you can see, they're all basically, again, being done one at a time, which means that we can mix and match the batches. So let's say you wanted, 50 of these in pine, 50 of them in black walnut, and 50 of them in glass, we can do that for you just as easily as, 150 out of plywood. So the first thing you want to keep in mind is on the website we have all the pricing information, so pick what you want there, send a note as to what you want more specifically, and we go from there. We could also help you with the design process. As with everything else on sandboxranch.com, we actually do it here in the shop, on demand, on order, whenever you need it. So for example, if you wanted, let's say, coasters like this here, but you wanted a laser engraved on the back, some personal message, we can do that for you as well. We can also customize it with custom rubber things at the bottom, so it gives it a little bit more grip. Especially with plywood, over time it might start to warp on you a little bit. So that's where the grips underneath help to keep it sort of relatively stable. You can also, source that yourself. Whatever, it's up to you. So if you're looking for custom periodic table coasters, contact me at sandboxranch.com. We'll make it for you on order, and we'll ship it right to your door.